I went to church occasionally on Sundays. I wasn't really involved in anything bad. I knew that Jesus was Jesus, and I knew that he was my Lord and Savior, but I didn't really care much about following him at that point. I think I had the strong foundation of knowing what the Bible said, but it was only in the last few years that I really did what the Bible said and started learning what that really looked like and what that meant.
Our greatest fear should not be of failure, but of succeeding at things in life that don't really matter. And ultimately, we realized that we weren't. Like, what were we actively doing in our life that was requiring a lot of faith from us? And we were going through the motions and going to church and living in community and reading our Bibles and going to Bible study, but we really weren't living in a way that was very consistent with that.
We had a girl, we had a boy, we were living the American dream. We were comfortable, we had good jobs, we had a beautiful house, and we were ready to, close the door on having kids and just live life. We were, like I said, we were very much involved with church, but comfort was much more of an idol than I realized at the time. I feel like God laid it upon our hearts that he wanted us to adopt.
At first, Jim was more on board with the adoption idea than I was. I actually was very scared, and the Lord he assured us and affirmed for us that adoption was the path for our family. We got to the point of just surrender, and once we were willing to step out in faith, that he was, we were just so grateful that he was allowing us to parent this child, and he didn't allow our fear to be bigger than our faith.
So we have two biological kids, and then our youngest, Macy, we adopted from China in May of 2018. That process has just completely changed our family. It's completely taught us what it really looks like to follow Jesus. And that time in our life I think of as the apex as far as our spiritual walk goes. I had clear direction from the Lord on what he wanted us to do, and we were doing it. And it wasn't comfortable physically, it wasn't comfortable financially, it wasn't comfortable emotionally, but spiritually, I've never been more comfortable. I've never been just more led by God himself. And it's the coolest thing we've ever done. Well, I think of, we're all orphans. I can't think of a clearer picture of our spiritual adoption, as in God taking us in, stepping out of eternity, stepping into the world through the person of Jesus in order that he might die, in order that he might rise again, in order that he might adopt us all to be fellow heirs with Jesus, and that we may all come to Christ. Adoption from our standpoint is a great picture, and I learned so much more about my own spiritual adoption after having gone through that process, after having been on the receiving end of all you want to do is pour your love into a child, and how much more it means for Christ to love me and to die for me.